Welcome into the Section YY8 podcast powered by Andrew's Physical Therapy. I've been doing a poor job of giving those fellas a shout out on the audio version, Harb, so apologies to them, but thank you for their support, Adam and Mike. Appreciate it. If you guys need to visit anywhere for physical therapy, be sure to check out Andrew's Physical Therapy. They've got locations in beautiful Strawberry Plains and beautiful Blaine, Tennessee. I'm not saying Strawberry Plains, Tennessee, because everybody knows where Strawberry Plains is, but Blaine, maybe not. So you might have to look it up. It's in Tennessee. There's one red light now. There used to be zero.
I do have a red light now.
They do have a red light now. You got to go past the red light to get to Andrew's Physical Therapy. So be sure to check those guys out. We appreciate their support of the podcast. I'm Negative Niece. That is Harb. And it's a big week here on the show. It's usually we record on Sunday night. Harb was wore out Sunday night. I was too. I was tired Sunday night. So I was low key pleased that you said you couldn't record Sunday night because I was exhausted from what a hard manual labor on Saturday, cutting up a tree here in the front yard. So we're recording tonight because in 2 days, this is Wednesday night, in 2 days on Friday night, the Tennessee Volunteers basketball team travels north on Interstate 75, and I don't know what interstate they hit past there, but may still be 75, heading toward Indianapolis, Lucas Oil Stadium, the house Peyton Manning built. Maybe that's a good omen for us. But Tennessee in the Sweet 16 for the third year in a row, fourth time in the past 7 seasons under Rick Barnes. I think it's time that some people retire that second round Rick moniker. Don't you think, Harb?
Yeah, yeah, the second round thing, that's pretty dead. We've been the Sweet 16, what, 4 out of the last 5,
7.
7? Gotcha. Yeah.
3 years in a row, 4 out of the last 7.
Yeah, man. We got a big one this weekend, though, that could potentially kill a lot of narratives.
Yeah, we'll get into that here in just a second. Our friends to the north are facing off with us, but how did we get there? Tennessee took down 15 seed Wofford, the Terriers from Spartanburg, South Carolina, dispatched them with ease. They got it. I think Wofford got it down a couple different points in the second half to 8 points, but it was always like one of those things, I didn't have a little brother. You didn't either, but I had a little cousin, Zach Slagle. He's a listener to the show. When he was little and I was, in high school, he would always play. I would like put my arm out, keep him at an arm's length. I felt like that's what we did with Wofford on. Gosh, when was that, Harp? Thursday night. The days are getting mixed up.
Yep. Thursday.
Tennessee ended up pulling away from them. Didn't cover, but who cares? They won by I think 15 or so. But yeah, did what they needed to do against Wofford and got out of there, and then went on to face UCLA Bruins. Mick Cronin, the 7 seed. They took down Utah State. I had Utah State winning. I think you had UCLA winning. So good on you. I didn't. But they blew out the Aggies in the first round of 64, to move on to face Tennessee in Rupp Arena in Lexington, home of the Wildcats. I wonder how Wildcat fans felt about all that orange being in there. A lot more than normal for a normal basketball game during the regular season. But Tennessee, I thought, did what they needed to do. Hard, played really well, especially 5 minutes to go range in the first half on. I think toward the end of the first half, what they go on like an 11-2 run to finish the half, I think, if I added it up correctly.
Yeah,
But
it was at least a 7-0 run to end it.
yeah, I
Yeah,
know
I do.
at one point the announcer said Tennessee's on an 8-0 run, and I'm sitting there like, gosh, I think they're on an 11-2 run, to be honest, if you went back far enough. But yeah, total, I don't want to call it domination, but they handled UCLA, especially for the last 25 minutes of the game. First 15 minutes of the game, it was back and forth. UCLA led a little bit. Tennessee went to a 1-2-2 press, caused all kinds of trouble for UCLA. Chaz Lanier got hot as a firecracker again. That guy is filling it up right now. I said it a couple weeks ago. That guy's got to shoot the basketball for us to win. He's taking good shots, he's taking smart shots, and he's making them. And he's got a really good elite point guard that's feeding him the basketball right now. This team offensively is playing the best they've played all year long, I think. But they're going to need every bit of it and more coming up this week. But before we move on to the main event this weekend in Indianapolis, Harv, what's your thoughts on this past weekend in Lexington?
We won our 4-team tournament that you
Yeah, we
alluded
won.
to.
We did what we came to do. Isn't that what Chris Beard said, supposedly?
Yeah, it worked for him. Uh, but yeah, I thought we looked good. We didn't win by a million against Wofford, but they shot the lights out. And I'll give them a lot of credit. They were scrappy. They were hitting shots. I don't think the game was ever in danger, really. But we did what we needed to do. We ended up winning by what, 15, 16?
14 or 15. I'd have to look it up. I can't remember.
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, we took care of business. And then UCLA is a slow start. First 15 minutes of the game was, not going to say hard to watch, but it kind of was. And then we got it together in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the first half, and we never looked back. We got up by as much as 19 or 20.
I think we got up 19 at one point.
With about 7 or 8 minutes left. And then they started scoring a little bit and dressed it up real nice, made it a single-digit victory. But that game for 75% of it was an ass kicking. Just plain and simple. That big white boy they had was giving us a little bit of fits early. We figured that out. Lanier got him another 20 piece, so he's averaging 25 in the tournament so far, or 24 and a half technically. I have zero complaints out of this team through the first 2 games for the most part. I don't want to get off to a slow start against Kentucky. That is my one complaint. Because I've said it since December, slow starts are what's going to derail this team eventually. And you're getting to the point in the tournament where you can't do that against anybody anymore. So I'd like to see us hit some shots early, get a little bit of confidence built early and not have to wait 15 minutes to get it going, because Kentucky is better than UCLA. By the way, Mick Cronin is just 100% gone, right? Like, they're not going to fire him. He's leaving.
Well, I said it on last week's show that I thought he would go to Indiana, but Indiana hired what's his face?
He just seems like he absolutely hates it there.
Well, he's complained and bitched and moaned. We called him last week bitching and moaning Mick Cronin. But he's complained all year long about the travel back and forth, coast to coast from UCLA since they joined the Big Ten. And I just feel like he's had one foot out the door for the last 2 months. I don't know where he's going to go at this point. I know Villanova's still open. I sent you guys a text this afternoon because I swear I read last night Richard Pitino was going to Villanova. Well, that changed, and he's at Xavier. But apparently, Nova's looking at Bob Huggins, which is weird. He hadn't coached in a couple of years, and he flamed out at his last spot. But anyways, I thought Mick Cronin would go to Indiana, but that didn't happen. So Indiana hired somebody, Harbin, and it is slipping my mind.
They took the guy from West Virginia that was at
Yes.
Drake beforehand.
That's right.
Right. His name is slipping me, but he is public enemy number 1 in Morgantown right now.
Yeah, they're not happy with him. So too bad.
So you get snubbed out of the tournament to leave another team that potentially got snubbed out of the tournament.
Yeah. Well, I
mean, I get it. Virginia job and the Indiana job are different levels, but I do have to say this about Mick Cronin. In the post-game presser after Tennessee, he had potentially an all-time crash out. I mean, he was just over it. So, reporter asked him a question about the game, and he said, "Right now, guys, it's 12:40 a.m. and our season just ended.
I
Right now, my
know.
biggest concern is how bad the seats are on this Allegiant flight on that terrible plane we're going to have to fly home tomorrow."
Did you? Are they? Was he being
And
serious that UCLA flew them out there on Allegiant
they,
or the NCAA?
based on what I've read, they've flown Allegiant all year.
That's
Yeah,
incredible. I mean, nothing against Allegiant. I know people that fly Allegiant,
I
but I
fly
just,
Allegiant too, but if I'm the head coach of UCLA men's basketball program, I would probably want to fly a little bit better than Allegiant.
especially across the country, as much as they fly,
Yeah, and then
must be cheap.
after that, he went on to say, now I'm paraphrasing because I don't have the exact quote. He's like, and I haven't ate a thing all day because I don't eat on game days, which is a weird thing to me. He's like, I don't eat on game days and I haven't had anything to eat. And I'm also wondering if Mike, whoever Mike or Mark is, he's like, if Mike's got me anything warm to eat. And they said, I really doubt that. I mean, so he's hangry. He was hangry.
He's angry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so I'll give him a pass on being hangry. But I don't know. You didn't play till 10 o'clock on the East Coast and you're on
Ugh.
West Coast schedule. Maybe plan accordingly and pack a Cliff Bar or something.
Yeah, maybe eat a granola bar or something,
Yeah, it just don't make a whole lot of sense. But
protein shake or something.
I mean, he's always looked kind of miserable coaching. I can't
Yeah,
imagine he'd be a fun guy to play for, but he has looked so miserable this past year at UCLA. And I
yeah.
can't blame him. I mean, flying cross country back to back for conference games has to be taxing, but you're the head coach.
I wonder what they would have done if they beat Tennessee. Would they have flown back to LA and then flown back to Indianapolis? That's a lot. That's a long. I mean, they get back on Sunday and turn around and leave on Tuesday to come back because I think Tennessee's up in Indianapolis on today on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But
Interesting.
I would be shocked if he stays there. I could see him taking a lesser job just to get out.
I don't really know what's open at this point. I know Texas has hired a coach. Indiana, I get West Virginia is, I guess, open, and Villanova, but I don't know of any other big jobs open right now. And he's a pretty big name coach. He's won a lot of basketball games at UCLA and Cincinnati before that. So it'd be interesting to watch him because I agree with you. He's looked like he's out the door for a while now.
Yeah, I don't see him staying there any longer, and if it does, it's going to get way worse.
So I mentioned Chaz Lanier earlier, Harbin. During the game, he passed Chris Lofton for the most made 3-point field goals in a single season at the University of Tennessee. Now he's building on it. He passed him at 3-pointer number 119, made another one to get to 120. So I'm hoping for another 4 or 5 threes this weekend in Dome up there in Indianapolis to build on that. But I asked the question to somebody the other day, and they kind of were like, they thought about it. They never really answered, but is he the new 3-point king at UT? I mean, technically for a season he is, but
I mean,
when
yeah,
I
you
think of
can't.
3-pointers, I think Chris Lofton.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue with stats. I mean, for a single season, yes. But Chris Lofton was also a 4 year guy here. He still holds the SEC record, which I really, even with the style of play change, it's going to be well. And with transfer portal, I think it's an unbreakable record. I don't think we're going to see a 4 year contributing guy at that level, especially staying with one team long enough to break it. I truly think with the landscape of college basketball that is an unbreakable record.
So yeah, Chris Lofton, you're right. I was listening to the VolQuest podcast. They hinted it that this week on their show. You know, is this Tennessee core the last of a dying breed where you see kids come in and stay for 4 years and build a nucleus and then they graduate and move on. But I mean, looking at these, like Chris Lofton hit 431 3-pointers from '05 to '08 at Tennessee. The next closest is Bryce Brown from Auburn, who did it from 2016 to 2019. He hit 382. but nobody's going to stay around. I mean, look at fourth. Our third place is Shan Foster from Vandy, 367. Fourth place is Pat Bradley, who graduated in 1999 from Arkansas at 366. Tennessee's got two in the top five. Allen Houston is in fifth, and he last did it in 1993 with 346 from
Was he?
1990 to 93. So you're right. Like I'm looking at this list. The most recent one is Santiago Vescovi in 2024. And he's in eighth all time on the SEC three pointers made list.
I
Everybody
mean,
else is from the mid 2000s.
there is still going to be 4-year contributing guys.
Yeah.
I mean, because Ziegler, Meshack, other teams have them, but it's going to be rare,
I mean,
because even
Wade Taylor's on here at 12th.
we are a fairly uh, we're a fairly traditional program ish, at least for the landscape now. Only two of our starting five started their career at Tennessee. Somebody put a graphic up. They didn't put any teams. It just had each team starting five in the school they started for, and half of them there was no way you could guess who it was. Because I think two or three of the Sweet 16 teams, none of their starting five started their career at that school. And one of them was Kentucky, and I get that because they literally didn't have a roster. Uh, but like Bama only has one, Auburn has one. It was funny because two of the Sweet 16 teams had a power tee on it, obviously with Adu and Awaka.
Right.
But the only team in the Sweet 16 that their entire starting five started their career at Purdue or at their school was Purdue.
Nick Bernard sent me, I'm trying to look it up. Nick Bernard sent me this the other day about the FAU team, the Florida Atlantic team that beat us. What was that, 2 years ago or 3 years ago now? 3 years ago. Um, they've got three guys that are playing in the Sweet 16 this weekend that were on that team. You got Vlad Golden at Michigan. You got the guy at Auburn. Oh, where is it? Well, anyways, I know he sent it to me, but I can't find it. Look it up. It's out there. But anyways, yeah, you're right. It's just a different generation we're living in. And for the season, Chaz Lanier's the 3-point king. I still consider Chris Lofton the all-time 3-point king because he did it over a span of multiple years, many years here at Tennessee. And when I think of three-pointers, I think of Chris Lofton. And I think you're right. It's going to take somebody special to come through to shoot the ball like that, but not special enough to go pro or to transfer and leave and go
Yeah.
to school out of the conference.
Yeah, which I just don't see that happening.
So the
Now if a guy transfers within the conference, I guess it has the potential there,
yeah.
but yeah, I still don't.
So the Vols are traveling. I mentioned a minute ago, they're traveling north. They're already there as of this recording. They're in Indianapolis, getting ready to take on the Kentucky Wildcats in the Sweet 16. I'll post this graphic on the video, but I'll read it here so you guys can, for those that are listening, obviously you can't see it through your audio or your earphones. So Vols are taking on Kentucky. Kentucky was 24-11 on the season, or coming into this game on the season. 16th in KenPom overall, 11th offensively, 45th defensively. The Vols are still sitting at number 5 overall in KenPom, 17th offensive rating, number 3 defensive rating. As we know, unfortunately, Kentucky was 2-0 versus the Vols this season. Didn't look good in either of those games. Tennessee did, but Tennessee, note for them, seeking their second straight Elite Eight for the first time in program history. And a note for the series, these two teams have met 241 times, Harbin. Kentucky leads the series 163-78. If I remember correctly, Tennessee has the most wins in as an SEC school against Kentucky than anyone else. But this is the first time they're meeting in the NCAA tournament in this series. So just a epic, huge game. I don't know what you want to call it, but there's a lot on the line here, and you'll get into what trends are favoring Tennessee. I'll give you a couple, and then I'll give a an opinion. Well, if I can pull it up here, Tennessee's minus 4.5 coming into the game, so they're favored by 4.5 points according to ESPN Bet. Matchup predictor has Tennessee as 63.1% favorites. Of course, I think we were favored by about that much or a little bit more when we played them at home. It wasn't, I think it was about 50-50 when we were in Rupp Arena a few weeks ago. But it's been several weeks since these two teams have played each other, Harb. Rick Barnes made a comment the other day that they're like, what is it? What are you thinking? You've lost to Kentucky twice this year. What are you like? What's your mindset going into the game? He said, well, and I'm paraphrasing like you were earlier. He's like, it would have been different if we played him in the SEC tournament last week. But he said, I don't even remember when we played him, and I don't either, to be honest. It's been several weeks ago, probably well over a month since we played him, or way over a month. So there's been a huge time frame here since we've played him. So a lot of time has passed. Both teams are different than they were at that point in the season. So you can almost say those two matchups in a way don't matter. They still do because Tennessee lost both of those. So that's got to be in the back of their minds a little bit. I know it's in the back of the fans' minds. I don't think that way. I told somebody the other day, I was like, we got to stop thinking. I said this last week too. Oh, I don't want to play Kentucky. We've lost to them twice. We got to stop thinking like that. This athletics department as a whole is better than that now. Like, we're the aggressors. Winners win. And that's what we need to do this weekend against Kentucky. I'm going to save another question after you get done with your little spiel here, Harbin, but um, and it has to do with this game and the gravity of it. But what's your stats that you've put together for the listeners out there that says Tennessee will win this game?
Well, I've got 5 points actually that I've found on the internet and through my own personal research. I'm gonna lead off with a couple. These are all NCAA tournament stats of the last 20 years, I believe. The first one is teams who were a favorite in their last game, Tennessee, playing against an underdog in their last game, Kentucky, are 41-13, which is a 76% win rate. The next one, number 2, is favorites against teams that are due for regression, which is defined as shot 47% or higher from the field, or 47-19, which is a 71% win rate. Number 3, favorites against teams that covered their spread by 8 or more in their last game are 32-10, which is a 76% win rate as well. Now here's the two good ones. Since 2010, teams that are favored by 3 or more, like Nee said, Tennessee's favored by 4.5, with a below average pace and above average free throw percentage, are 23-5 against the spread.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
So teams that slow it down and can hit their free throws as a favorite normally win.
That
And
is
now,
one thing Tennessee and Jordan Moore posted this, who's been on the show before with me. Tennessee's getting to the free throw line like crazy right now. I think they're third nationally since February 15th, getting to the free throw line, and they're top 1 or 2 over the last like couple weeks. They are getting to the free throw line a ton, and they're making a ton of free throws right now. They're doing a really good job. One thing I know Montana has said it a lot. A lot of people said over the past few years, Tennessee shoots too many jump shots. They're not getting to the free throw line. Well, they are now.
yeah.
They're doing it.
Now the final stat that I have.
Oh, sorry. Thought you went through 5. My
No,
bad.
that was number 4. Quattro.
Unbelievable. I can't count.
All right, the finale. Since 2004, teams that covered in the round of 64 and the round of 32, which Kentucky did, are 3-37 straight up, which is 7%, when the spread is larger than 2 in the Sweet 16.
And what was our spread?
4.5.
Ooh.
This only applies when the round of 32 line was smaller than 4, and Illinois was favored by 2 in that game, or a point and a half, depending on where you looked. 3-37.
Not good.
So I can sit here and I can rattle off numbers like Rain Man all day long.
You're like Alan on Wedding Crashers coming down the steps like Rain Man.
But I'm willing to bet that absolutely maybe one or two of these games were conference matchups that have played each other before. So, I mean, these are a good indicator of what's going to happen. And for me, I don't think I'm as worried as I should be. Like I feel pretty good about it. I do. And I may regret saying that shit on the internet, but it is what it is.
It's out there forever now.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like nobody knows what's going on in each of those locker rooms. But I'll tell you, the team that wins and the team that loses, the team that loses is the one sitting in the locker room like, damn, we gotta play them again. Like, no matter if you won the first two or lost the first two. And the team that's gonna win is like, damn, we get to play them again. And I'm not saying either one of those teams is dreading the matchup because I think both teams are actually pretty eager to get back at each other because Kentucky has the momentum. They obviously think that they can beat us. Now I think pride kicks in for Tennessee, especially with the seniors. It's like, man, we ain't going 0-3 against Kentucky in the Sweet 16. We ain't doing that. We ain't doing it.
They can't let it happen. I mean, they just can't. They have to find a way. They have to will themselves. They cannot let. I mean, I was asked, start of the season, what's your goal for Tennessee this year? And I was like, obviously, the goal is to get to the Final Four. After that, it's icing on top of the cake. Now, would I be disappointed with anything less than a Sweet 16? Absolutely. Am I pleased with where they're at? Yes, but I want more. And I would be, if we weren't, say we were playing Illinois and we lost, I would be disappointed. But if we lose to Kentucky, I will be very, very disappointed. And it will, Montana was talking in our text group the other night, like, if we lose to Kentucky, it's what do you say, a C plus or something for the season.
I agree with him.
I mean, I think that's a little low, but I couldn't give them anything above a B minus.
Well, here's the thing. If we do lose this game, and I truly, within my heart of hearts, believe that we win this game, so we might be wasting oxygen right here. But if you lose this game, you go 0-3 against Kentucky. You get bounced in the Sweet 16 again. You don't win the regular season, and you don't win the tournament for the SEC. What did you really accomplish? You were number one for 3 weeks?
And you won a bunch of games. That's it.
Yeah, like, cool. Like, this is, which I mean, it's dumb because every game in the tournament you play is the most important game of the season. This is far and beyond the most important game of the season right now. And after we win,
The next one.
when we play on Sunday, will be the most important game of the season. But this has potential to be one of the most important wins in program history, or the biggest kick in the nads, maybe in program history.
Yeah, it was floating around. I can't remember who tweeted it. Is this the biggest game in Tennessee basketball history?
No,
Maybe, but
no. I think last year was the Elite Eight game against Purdue.
yeah. I mean, I think the two Elite Eight games we played in are probably the biggest games in Tennessee basketball history. You can't say that they're not because we didn't win. I mean, this is top five, definitely. And I would like to do this after the season, Harb. I was thinking about this the other night, is go back maybe start with Jerry Green onward and do like a bracket of the biggest NCAA tournament wins for Tennessee basketball since the Jerry Green era on, because there's been a bunch. I mean, before that, there was, I mean, I think you had to go back to the 80s maybe to find the NCAA tournament berth. But back to your point of, what did you, if Tennessee loses this game, what did you accomplish? You won a bunch of games this year. You beat a bunch of really good basketball teams. You won the Battle for Atlantis. You got a trophy there, and you get to put another year on the Sweet 16 banner. But that's about it. And this program's in a spot now where that's just not good enough anymore. And with where the program's at currently, with its current roster structure going into next year and a lot of uncertainties, they need to make hay this year because, and I know the transfer portal can change a lot of things, but just looking at next year's roster currently as it stands right now, there ain't much of anything coming back. And this program could be in for a reset, whether Rick Barnes is here or not. There's a lot of people, is Rick Barnes retire after this season? Not engaging in that talk because I just don't think it'll happen this offseason unless something special happens. But this program could be in for a little bit of a reset next year unless they hit the portal hard and get the right players in here, and which I have faith that they will. But what's coming back currently, there's going to be a lot of holes on this roster, which happens in college basketball. That's just college sports now. Um, but it's going to be different next year because you're losing core guys like Ziegler and Meshack. You're losing Lanier, and you're losing the other seniors that were here that have contributed to a really good basketball program over the last 10 years. And it's going to be different. I just feel like this is the opportunity. Like they've got to do it this year. And if they don't, it might be a year or two before they get back, unless they fill the holes that they need to fill with the transfer portal. So I say all that to say it's a huge game. I'm hesitant to say that it's the biggest game in Tennessee basketball history because I think if they win, the next one could be, and if they win that one, the next one would be even bigger. But there's a lot on the line this weekend. There's, like you said, pride. Like, we don't need to lose to Kentucky 3 times in a season. There's another trip to the Elite Eight on the line, and this team, I think, if they lost, would feel like they left a lot on the table and would really, besides that preseason tournament and another year on the Sweet 16 banner, would have left a lot to be desired. And that's what sucked about losing the SEC tournament championship game. Like, yeah, you got that far, but you didn't win anything, um, except 2 basketball games, and one of them against the number one overall seed in the big dance. But the numbers point to us, Harb. I'm very confident heading into this game. Maybe you're, like you said, maybe I shouldn't be, but I normally don't get nervous about games anymore. Like, I wasn't nervous at all during that UCLA game. Usually when it gets into the second half, I get a little tense on edge, especially if it's close. And I don't expect this game to be a blowout Saturday, and neither does Vegas or the analytics. But the old rear end might be getting a little tight there on Saturday if this game's close, Harbin.
Friday, but
Or
yes.
Friday, sorry.
Uh, no, I'm definitely going to be nervous for the game. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it just is what it is. Hell, I got a little nervous when it tipped off against UCLA. Like a good nervous though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like the nervous I had at kickoff in Ohio Stadium. That's a little bit
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a different
Yeah.
nervous.
So
Anyway,
so I had Tennessee winning in my original bracket. Um I don't remember, you didn't have Tennessee winning, or did you? I can't remember.
I had well, I didn't have this matchup happening, which my bracket is
You had
horrendous.
Texas. That's right.
Well, I didn't have Texas. I changed it after realizing, and by the way, the theory held through to the end of the season. I believe SEC teams finished 0-11 in their last 11 in their first games after playing Tennessee. I don't know. I thought Xavier was going to beat Illinois because Illinois They either look like a Final Four team or they couldn't beat Carson Newman. I banked on the latter. Yeah, so I picked Xavier being the Sweet 16,
Gotcha.
and I'm an
Well,
idiot,
I
but yeah,
well, we all are. I made some dumb picks too, but we won't get into that right now. But so Tennessee and Kentucky, I just said who I think Tennessee wins this game. What do you think? Do the Vols do it and advance on to Sunday
they
in
do.
Indianapolis?
They do. Uh, and this is one of those cliches, and you'll hear a lot of people say it, but it's true. It is very, very, very hard to beat any team 3 times, but especially when the talent is as close as it is. And non-biasly, I truly believe that Tennessee's a little bit better than Kentucky, just in general. Um, it's really hard to win 3 straight. You know, uh, that's why the NBA plays 7 game series in the playoffs. You know,
Hmm.
because basketball happens. Like it's somebody's going to beat somebody they shouldn't. Now, 2 in a row. I'm not saying that it, quote unquote, shouldn't have happened. It just is what it is. But with your season on the line and as senior heavy as we are, and especially playing a rivalry game, this is extremely rare at this point in the season. It very rarely happens. When it does happen, it's memorable. Like Duke and UNC in the Final Four. Was that 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
So yeah,
Um, yeah, I think it's going to be a hell of a basketball game. And
Kentucky's good. I kind of ripped them a little after playing Oklahoma and Alabama in the SEC tournament because I thought they played. I didn't think they played well at all, but they took care of Troy and they played pretty well against Illinois the other night.
and don't get it twisted, they are going to be ready to roll against us. And when our game tips off, there's going to be a lot of blue in there because Indianapolis is what 100 miles from Lexington, or
Not far,
yeah,
couple hours maybe.
yeah. I saw a graphic. It had the 4 teams playing in Indianapolis, and it had the miles traveled to get there. Purdue was 70 miles. Kentucky was like 130. We were like 330, and then it had Houston, which is the number 1 seed at like 1,100 miles,
Yeah, they're way out there.
which is wild. But there's 2 things I do want to say. Lanier shot it like shit the first 2 times that we played Kentucky. Now it's kind of like an unstoppable force and an unmovable object. You know, you have his stats for the first 2 games they played, but you also have his stats from the last 2 games that he's played in the tournament, and they're night and day difference. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but y'all remember that he didn't play well against Kentucky. Um, so we do need a good outing out of him. And another thing to watch is the matchup between God, what's his name? I just went blank. Kentucky's point guard.
Butler.
Yeah, Lamont Butler. Thank you. The matchup between Lamont Butler and Zakai Ziegler, which that's just going to be pure basketball. Uh, and I hope he stays healthy through this game. He got hurt against us, and I just want to.
Yeah,
He's going to
I
pull.
still don't. I was reading about him earlier today. I still don't think he's 100% Lamont Butler for Kentucky, talented point guard for them. But I mean, he played against Illinois the other night, so I would assume he's going to be available for us. Probably not at 100%, but it's who's at 100% on March 28th.
Right. He's gonna give it his all, and that's probably gonna be the best game within the game to watch, just because both of those guys are so good at basketball. So from a
And and
take my fandom out of play, like I would love watching that matchup if I was a Maryland fan or whoever. Like that matchup's just gonna be awesome.
And Zakai Ziegler is playing. I mentioned it earlier. He's elite. He is playing at an elite level for a point guard right now. I said it. I've said it all the time. A lot of people are like, well, Tennessee don't have a dominant big man. We got to have a dominant big man. To win in March, you got to have a point guard. It's nice to have a big man like Edie last year, but Purdue is still good without him. They probably don't, make it to the national title game without him. But they're playing this weekend. And it's
Mhm.
because they have good guard play. And Tennessee is getting really good guard play, especially from Zakai Ziegler right now. And that's what you got to have in March or in any level of basketball. From high school up, you have a good point guard. I hate to give this person credit, but remember the Running Hornets. Who stirred the drink for the Running Hornets? Jordan Bowden scored a lot of points, but who stirred that drink, Harbin?
Oh, BD.
Old BD, Blake
BD.
Dutton. And he was, the ball always found him and he facilitated for all those other guys to go out and score 25 and 30 points and run up down the court. So you got to have that this time of year, and they need to play at a high level.
Going back to Purdue, their point guard is probably the best point guard in the country.
He's good.
I think, that's not really a hot take. I think he was named first team All American at guard. So go figure. But and I guess we can talk about Houston Purdue because
Yeah, I was going to ask
winner,
you. I've
the winner
got
of
a.
our game against them.
Yeah, I was going to ask, who do you think Tennessee advances to play? So you got. I'll put the bracket up here on the screen. It's number one Houston versus number four Purdue. This region went chalk for the most part. Number two Tennessee and number three Kentucky. We're the first game of the night. Purdue and Houston follow us. Houston's at if they have a disadvantage is what you mentioned earlier. They're so far away from Houston, Texas. You look at Purdue, they're right down the road in West Lafayette. You look at Kentucky, they're again right down the road in Lexington. They've got a huge fan base nationwide. And then even Tennessee's not that far away. It's a 5.5 hour drive from Knoxville to Indianapolis, and Tennessee's got a huge fan base. So there's going to be a lot of blue, orange, and gold in there, and they'll be red for the Cougars. But they're at a disadvantage because they're not going to have as many fans in that place as those three other three teams. But they play Purdue, which is this is going to be pretty much a home game for Purdue. I haven't looked at the line or anything to see who's. I'm assuming Houston's favored, but who do you think Tennessee?
Houston's 8.5, which is surprising to
Yeah,
me.
it's a little more than I thought. I figured it'd be around
Yeah.
5 or 6.
So I watched in entirety Purdue's first two games just by happenstance. It just happened. They look really, really good right now. Now, granted, they did play a 13 and a 12 to get here, but it is the same 12 that dog walked Clemson, which, hand up, I was big on Clemson.
You were.
I'll own it, I'll eat it, that's fine. But Clemson was a damn good basketball team for the majority of the year. So that big man they got, it's the light skinned guy, like Clothman Key or
I think. Yeah, I haven't got to watch them much this year. I don't know all their names.
he's got a hyphenated last name. He dominated against High Point, which they were just bigger than High Point, and he had a really good game against McNeese too. I think the key to watch there is if he can get anything going against Houston's size, and if he can, I think Purdue has a better than 50% chance of winning that game. If he can get if he can score 17, 18 and get to the foul line, I think they have a very good chance to win that game. Now, if they don't, it comes down to guard play, just with how long and athletic Houston is. But if Purdue has had kind of an up and down season. They'll play really good and then they'll choke. They'll play really good and then they squat the bed. I don't know. I'm still going to give the edge to Houston, but if Purdue's playing clean basketball, which is what they're pretty much known for, and if they can get anything going inside and they're making threes like they did the first two games this tournament, I think they could definitely be in the Elite Eight. I'm still going to give the advantage to Houston, though. They're just bigger and faster. I think they're more aggressive, especially on the defensive end. So I'm going to give the edge to Houston. But I don't see this being a blowout. I just don't. But
I like Houston too. I had Tennessee versus Houston in this game from the beginning, but I think Houston's a more athletic than Purdue. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think you might see Houston probably, around that cover line by the end of the game. But I mean, you just can't ever count out a Matt Painter team. They're going to play. They play a physical brand too,
And they get the whistle
and
still.
they do. They're still getting that Zach Edey whistle a little bit.
The fact that Purdue gets a better whistle than Indiana. I think I said this last year.
You did.
Please get a time machine to
Yeah.
1995 and tell somebody that.
Go back when Bobby Knight and Gene Cady. Bobby Knight was at Indiana. Gene Cady was at Purdue, and tell those folks that in the future Indiana won't make the tournament on a consistent basis, and Purdue gets a better whistle than Indiana. Those people would be shocked. But I've got Tennessee and Houston playing in the Elite Eight. You do too. Houston means we're one step closer to San Antonio, one step closer to you. Um, who you got here, Harb? Does Tennessee actually? Because we won't record until this game actually is over
Oh,
again, so we have to make our pick. Well, what happened?
I don't. I don't want to pick it.
You don't want to pick it?
Well, I mean,
I already picked it on last week's show, so
you got Tennessee.
I had Tennessee going to the Final Four, defeating Houston, and I don't know what the point spread's going to be. I don't know what the BPI is going to be. I don't know what Ken Palm or any of that says.
I think a lot of that will have to do with what happens on Friday.
Right. And I feel like watching these first two games, Tennessee in the past has, like last year even, it was a struggle to beat Texas in the second round. It wasn't, I wouldn't call it a struggle to beat Creighton in the Sweet 16 because Creighton was a very good basketball team. But this team this year, it just feels like they're one of those teams. You know what I'm saying? Like they've got a player that's kind of carrying them right now. They've got a really good point guard. They've got a veteran coach who's been there, done that. Like it just feels like it's this program's time. I don't know why I keep feeling that. It might be gas. I don't know. But I don't know. I just feel like it's this program's time to take that next step that I've said it on here a bunch and we've said it like the percentages say you keep knocking on that door, you're eventually going to kick the door in. I mean, I look at programs like Syracuse and Kansas. I mean, they forever were knocking on that door of getting to a national title, and they finally did it. And I mean, not Syracuse as much as Kansas, but since Kansas won that first title all those years ago, they've won two or three since. And Tennessee baseball, they finally got to Omaha and did it. How many more's coming because of that? And I just feel like there's just something in me that's telling me that it's Tennessee's time, and I might throw analytics out the window on that one. And just, I think it's Tennessee's time. They just find a way to win.
Well, I can say this as far as Ken Palm goes. I remember last week or 2 weeks ago, we named, like, according to Ken Palm, the 7 or 8 teams that had a chance of winning it, and like out of like the 5 different denominations that you looked, at least 4 of them included Tennessee and Houston. So if Tennessee and Houston both win the Sweet 16, I think Vegas will have this game at pretty much a pick 'em. I think it'll be a 1.5, 2.5 point spread. They'll probably give the nod to Houston. I don't know. These two teams play damn near the exact same.
They do.
I think Houston's a hair bigger than us. They might be a little bit more athletic. But both of these teams are very comfortable in the mud. And it could be one of those games where, like, somebody just watching because it's Elite Eight that hasn't watched much of Tennessee or Houston this year, and they're like, God, this game blows.
Yeah.
Like, that could very well happen. Like, it could be 57-53 easily. Kind of like that Auburn game in the regular season.
I was about to say, I venture to say there's probably been a few Tennessee games this year where that has happened.
Yeah, and there's been quite a few Houston games. But both of these teams have the ability to light it up as well. And you get an awesome coaching matchup between Barnes and Sampson. if this does happen. Um, so I don't know. I think it's a coin flip. Uh, for content purposes, I'm gonna go Houston.
And that wouldn't
I'm
be a
not gonna
bad,
pick.
that's not a bad pick. I mean, Houston's very good. I
No,
mean, these are the two best teams in the region, in my opinion.
yeah, they are. And if I'm not mistaken, I think when it came down to seeding, Houston was the 4 and Tennessee was the 5, or was Houston
I
3?
think they were the three and Florida was the four,
Yeah,
I think. So you mentioned
Florida's best team in the tournament right now.
they're definitely playing the best.
Yeah, and not like Auburn's still getting the number one overall seed baffled me. They still haven't looked phenomenal, but another podcast that I listened to, they made a great point with Auburn versus Creighton. I'm kind of getting off the rails here. I'll wrap it up real quick. But Creighton was there. Like Creighton had them kind of where they wanted them. It was tied, and the next thing you know, you look up and bam, Auburn's up 10. It didn't really feel like anything happened, and that's what good teams do. They just casually pull away by 10 points, and then the game's over. So
Yeah,
credit to
I remember you mentioning that last week about Auburn. I had somebody else mention, I can't believe Auburn was the overall number one seed. And I'm like, they won 16 quad one games. And they're like, well, they didn't even make the SEC championship game. And I was like, so look at their whole body of work. I get it. Florida's playing the best basketball in the country right now. And they did beat Auburn at Auburn, right? Earlier in the season. It was at Auburn.
Yeah, and they won at Alabama and took 2 out of 3 against us.
But I mean, look at both of those teams. Look at their body of work. You can make a case they're both 1 and 2. But I thought the edge, just from a body of work, needed to go to Auburn because they had a lot more than Florida. But I
I
wouldn't want
think
to play Florida right now.
I think if it's a coin flip, you give it to the team with a better overall record, which is Florida, especially when they play in the same conference because it's very easy to divvy it up. You give it to the team with the head-to-head, which would be Florida, and you give it to the team that well, and then Auburn won the regular season, Florida won the tournament. So I guess you can split it there. But this talk doesn't matter because the tournament started and they're both here.
And
And
we won't see them till the national title game if it gets to that point. So
correct, yeah.
they're way over there. You mentioned your Ken Palm champs. I made a note of that last week. So it was originally, or here's what's left from the Ken Palm formula. There's Duke, Florida, Houston, Auburn, and Tennessee. Gonzaga, Iowa State, and Wisconsin were eliminated. If you want to go back to another metric, the week 6 AP poll, which if you're in the top 12 of that poll the last, how many years, Harbin, has a national champion come from that?
Since '04.
Since '04. So you have
04, 03.
eliminated from that poll in the tournament. You have number 12, Oregon, eliminated. Number 10, Kansas, eliminated. Number 8, Gonzaga, eliminated. Number 6, Marquette, eliminated. Number 3, Iowa State, eliminated. You still have alive from the week 6 AP poll. Number 11, Purdue. Number 9, Florida. Number 7, Alabama. Number 5, Kentucky. Number 4, Duke. Number 2, Auburn. And number 1, Tennessee. So all of those teams are still in the running for the national title, and there's pretty good percentages say. I'm trying to see who's in there. Houston's not in here. So according to the week 12 AP poll or the week 6 AP poll, Houston can't win the national title. They're still alive though.
I want to say they were 14th in that poll.
Who does Florida play? Maryland. They're not in here. They weren't even ranked at the time. Who else is playing? Harbin,
like
Auburn, and
Auburn's playing.
Arkansas. So
No,
Arkansas is not in it. So the
Auburn is playing Michigan.
Michigan, that's right. Arkansas is playing
Ole
Michigan.
Miss.
Ole Miss.
Oh, no. Yes, Ole Miss. No.
No.
Ole Miss is playing Michigan State. This is really bad podcasting.
Yeah, this is terrible. I hope the listeners are turning their radios off and YouTube as we speak. Ole Miss was in this poll, but they were 19th. Michigan State was in here at 21. I'm trying to see if anybody else is still alive. Houston was 15. Michigan was 14. That's it. Mississippi State was 25th.
Ar-
UCLA's eliminated. San Diego's eliminated.
Arkansas plays Texas Tech,
Texas Tech was not anywhere in the top 25.
and
They were
Auburn plays Michigan. Ole Miss plays Michigan State.
Texas Tech wasn't even receiving votes at this point in the season. That's crazy. Maryland was receiving votes. Hmm.
By the way, the stat that I mentioned about below average pace and above average free throw shooting, that applies to two teams in the Sweet 16. It applies to Tennessee and it applies to Texas Tech with spreads that are larger than 3 or higher. Texas Tech is a 5.5 point favorite over Arkansas, and Tennessee's 4.5.
Not to get off topic, but I like Texas Tech. I had them advancing to the Sweet 16. I also had Maryland, but don't take my word for it. I also had UC San Diego advancing to the Sweet 16. That didn't happen.
The first 15 minutes of that New Mexico Michigan State game, I felt like the smartest man alive
Yeah,
because
you did.
I had Ole Miss and New Mexico playing in the Sweet 16. Now, I think I sent a screenshot when they were up 11 or when they were up, I don't know, they were up something in the first half. I said, stop the count.
You did, yes. Because I was like, stop what count? And then I was like, oh. Um, it's going to be a huge weekend, and I'm already getting jittery about it. I will not be in Indianapolis. So there's another metric for you, Harbin. I won't be there. I was at the last I was at the first Tennessee baseball game that they lost this year against ETSU. We haven't even talked about that. And I was getting texts. Why did you go? So I will not be anywhere near Indianapolis this weekend. Thank you very much. You're welcome. So I posted on X, Twitter this afternoon if anybody had any questions, and we had an abundance of them. One came through from longtime listener, well, good friend of the show. I don't know if he listens or not. The YY8 refugee out there in Middle Tennessee. Shout out YY8 refugee. His question was, will the cats be returning to the mines? I'm going to say they can't afford to leave the mines, so they can't return to them because they blew all their money going to Nashville a couple weeks ago. So no, they will not be returning to the mines because they can't leave.
No, they took a second mortgage to get to Indianapolis.
They
So
had to sell more oxy and a second mortgage to get there.
they will hop back on that Greyhound back to Lexington and surrounding hollers. And yes, they will be back in the month.
Dewey Crow and Boyd Crowder are heading north on that church bus for heading to, they're going to stop in Indianapolis on their way to Detroit. Dixie Mafia. All right. Well, we got Tennessee. I've got Tennessee in the Final Four. Harb's got them in the Elite Eight. Huge weekend for Tennessee basketball. Many are saying it's the biggest game in program history. That's yet to be seen, but it's I just can't understate like this is a huge opportunity for Tennessee, and they need to take advantage of it. Harbin.
Yeah, absolutely. This, I hate to give Kentucky this much credit, and I don't think me saying this puts the emphasis on Kentucky as much as it does this game. But this game kind of defines your season.
Yeah,
It just does. Even if we would have played Illinois, if we played them in the regular season, it'd be very similar. You know, if you lose to a team that you beat in the regular season, it puts a damper on it, no matter if it's a rival or not. But it is extremely paramount that you win this game. Like you have to, because and this is not even for the university. This is kind of a Rick Barnes legacy game.
you can say that. Yeah.
Yeah, like because if you can take a school to, would this be three Elite Eights under Barnes or two?
or two under Barnes, or third overall,
Yeah, so I mean, if you can take a program that had seen one Elite Eight ever to two in back to back
back
years,
to back.
yeah, that's huge for him as a coach and for us as a program. But also this weekend as a whole, you know, you you take Tennessee to the Final Four, that is a huge stamp on your legacy. Like in my opinion, he's already the greatest coach in Tennessee history. A lot of people
It's
are going to want to say Ray Mears. He won one tournament game or two.
I mean, Ray Mears he's the godfather, but Rick Barnes has surpassed him as greatest coach of all time
Yeah, yeah. I
at
mean,
Tennessee.
his name will be in the rafters after he retires,
Hmm.
but there will be less murmurs when that banner goes up if he wins this basketball game on Friday.
Yeah, there's
Just
always going to be if they don't get even if they don't get past the Elite Eight, there's always going to be that what if about Rick Barnes. Well, what if they would have won this game, and what if they? I mean, they just that's why I feel like it's our time to get over that hump. They just haven't been able to, and they've gotten better at it over the last, like we mentioned earlier, the second round Rick mantra is gone, and they keep advancing further and further and knocking on that door. And I just feel like it's time. Um, it's time for Tennessee to do it. So I think they do, Harb. I just, like I said earlier, I just think they do. There's something in me. Like I said, it may be gas, but which I have a lot of, but
we
I
got numbers
feel
behind us, and it's hard to beat a good team three times.
that is correct.
And at some point, the guys in the Tennessee locker room just gotta
They just got a JWTDG.
right, yeah, but just put your damn pride in front of you. Like a lot of times, it's good to put your pride to the side. Not right now.
I really wish they had that
We're taking
JW. I really wish they had that JWTDG patch on their chest and they hit it every time. Just and they know like it's what it's all about. That's all that matters. Nothing else matters. It doesn't matter if we wear white uniforms, cream, orange. It's
what?
it's all about JWTDG. Speaking of just winning the damn game, Tennessee baseball, even though they had a stumble against ETSU, lost their first game of the season, followed it up with a loss at Bama last Thursday night, 6-5. They bounced back in a big way over the weekend. 10-7 winners on Friday, 9-2 winners on Saturday. They're now at 22 and well, as of this recording, they're 23-2. The graphic on the screen says next up versus Queens. Because when I made this, I thought we were recording Sunday night. They beat Queens last night. 5-1 in SEC play. They're at South Carolina this weekend. South Carolina is 1-5 in conference play. I don't know much about South Carolina. I know they've normally been a very good baseball program. They've kind of faltered over the last couple of years. Paul Maneri's their new coach. I think he's in year one, former LSU coach who we sent into retirement at LSU a few years ago after we beat them in the Super Regionals. But another road series, big series for Tennessee. They need to keep taking 2 out of 3 and maybe get greedy and sweep one here or there. But there is an outside chance I attend one of these games this weekend, probably the Saturday game in South Carolina. So if we lose that game, you can blame me, Harbin. But Vols are still rolling, even though we lost 2 games last week. It was the first time I believe Tennessee's lost back-to-back games in over a calendar year. Still haven't lost an SEC series, but
Yeah.
it's the first time we lost back-to-back games in over 1 year.
The boys are good. By the way, what did Florida do this past weekend? Because I noticed that they went from number 7 to unranked.
They got the broom brought out on them again.
So they're 0-6 in conference play.
They are. I don't remember who beat them. Let's look it up real quick. But yeah, they got swept again.
Well, yep, that will knock you out of the top 25.
Yeah, they're 0-6. Texas A&M, Missouri, and Florida 0-6 in SEC play. South Carolina lost to North Carolina in a midweek game because they're now 17-9. I have them at 17-8 on the graphic. Yeah, I don't know who Florida. I'm trying to look up. their scores from last weekend. Let's see. They're hosting Ole Miss this week, who's number 15 in the country. Well, shame on me for not knowing this, Harbin. Who did they play last weekend? This is unbelievable. Oh, number four, Georgia. Very good team. So they played the number one and the number four team in the country back to back weekends and went 0 and 6 in those games. So not good for
And now they
Florida.
got to go to Oxford.
And now they're going to no, they're hosting Ole Miss
Uh, I
because
would
they've been on.
imagine. I would imagine they'll get at least one.
I mean, Florida's. I mean, they were top 10 coming into the Tennessee series, and like you said, now they're not ranked at all, which is crazy.
It's a long
But,
year.
but long year, Texas A&M's not ranked. They faltered to start the season, so they're probably in dire need of some wins. But Tennessee off to a 5-1 start. A lot of teams up there. I mean, Georgia's really good this year. Arkansas is back up there. LSU. So a lot of big baseball left to be played, but Tennessee's at playing the Gamecocks this weekend down in Columbia. So we'll update everybody next week on that. Harbin, you got anything else before we go? I was going to do a hater and loser, but I want to save it so I can dedicate more time to it because it really pissed me off this week. But we'll do that another time when we got more time to talk about it.
Do and I can't believe since you being the host of this show, you didn't bring this up. But I'll bring it up for Big Montana. The Lady Vols are in the Sweet 16
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I didn't, I meant to bring that up.
after a huge round of 32 win in Columbus, Ohio, against the Ohio State Buckeyes. They won by 15 or 17, I believe.
Yeah, they
Uh,
were up for most of that game, like up by a
yeah,
lot.
Coach Caldwell's got them girls humming. But their reward is playing the number one overall seed, I believe, which is the
Texas.
Texas Longhorns.
Are
Uh,
they the Lady Longhorns or just the Longhorns?
I don't know. They're playing Texas, and gonna be a tall task, but it's been done before. So
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you just never know in March. I think those Tennessee looked gassed or the Lady Vols looked gassed at the end of the season. They were not playing well. I think they lost 4 out of 5 to end the season and pretty much blew a chance to host at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center. And so they had to go on the road and they beat South Florida and then they beat the host Ohio State Buckeyes there at the Value City Arena and on campus at Ohio State. But yeah, I think the couple weeks off did them girls some good because they looked gassed at the end of the season. But I actually sat down and watched that game Sunday night. It was the first time I'd sat down and watched Tennessee Lady Vols like for an entire game the whole year. And I know Montana was tweeting or texting us about it. And he said he was listening to podcast about the Lady Vols, which I didn't know there was one, but maybe learn something every day, I guess. But anyways, I mean, a huge win for that program in year one under Kim Caldwell, and she's got a stud recruiting class coming in, 3 5 stars. So I think the ceiling is only going to, or the room for this program to grow is huge coming up, and this is a huge step in year one for them.
the ceiling is the roof.
The
Michael,
ceiling is the roof.
the ceiling is the roof.
Well, yeah. I feel bad. I totally forgot about the late with everything we're talking about. I totally forgot. I
Unbelievable.
think Tennessee is the only school to have a team make the college football playoff, the men's and women's Sweet 16,
Yep. And cherry on top, baseball national champs.
baseball national. And I want to. We kind of talked about this last year after basketball was over, but are we in a golden era of Tennessee athletics? I agree, but I think we could dedicate a whole show to just talking about that, like how good this athletics department is right now. It's unbelievable how everybody is. The women's tennis team is winning. Golf is good. I mean, I'm serious. Everybody is winning right now at that place.
I think to
And
consider it a golden era, I think one more program needs a national championship.
well, maybe we can help that out in the next couple of weeks with.
Yeah, man, we'll see. We'll see. I think right now, as we sit, on March 26th. I think the men have the best odds of a national championship amongst men's and women's basketball and football. Uh, I just like our odds better than the women. It's going to be a tall
Yeah.
task knocking off Texas, but
I was going to look up odds to win national championship, and this was as of today,
Tennessee is 17-1, I think.
16 to 1.
16.
They are one, two, three, four, fifth best odds still. We've been about fifth all year long. Auburn is plus 550. Houston is plus 500. Florida's plus 310. Duke is plus 225. Tennessee to make the Final Four is plus 230.
One of the one seeds is going down in the Sweet 16.
Which one is it?
Well, according to my bracket, it's Florida. But it'll be really interesting to see how Auburn handles the size of Michigan. And Dusty May is just a hell of a March coach.
He is. He's good.
Yeah. Uh, Duke plays Arizona. I just think Arizona don't have enough firepower. It's kind of a cool story. Caleb Love getting one more game against Duke.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, he was point guard at North Carolina for a while, and he hit
And
the shot to beat Duke in the Final Four when they
mm,
met in 2022, I
and
think it was.
22. And don't forget Tobe Awaka is playing for Arizona, former Vol.
Correct. And Houston and Purdue. So all four of the one seeds have very intriguing matchups. But we're to that point in the year where just about every game's an intriguing matchup.
Yeah.
Another one to keep an eye on, sneaky, is that Bama BYU game.
That could be good. A lot of offense.
Yeah, because BYU likes to run just as much as Bama does. I that game total might be set at 180.
I tell you, I had Wisconsin very quickly. I had Wisconsin beating Alabama in this next round, Sweet 16, and advancing to play Duke. They're obviously not there, but BYU and Bama, a lot of points. Before we go, my favorite game of the tournament was the very last one of the round of 32 the other night, Oregon and Arizona. And it was like the timing of it was perfect because it went into midnight. Neither team is in the Pac-12 anymore. They're both in the, let's see, Arizona's in the Big 12, Oregon's in the Big 10. But it was a throwback Pac-12 after dark game. Bill Walton would have been smiling watching that game. But it was it probably wasn't the best basketball you've ever seen, but it was a lot of athletes on both sides. They were getting up and down the court. It was an entertaining basketball game. It was probably out of all the games I watched this weekend, that was probably, and it was late too. I was in bed watching it, but it was the best one of the tournament to me. Now I didn't get to see a lot of Saturday games because I was outside working, but that Oregon Arizona game, it was a 5-4 matchup, but it was late, and I think it was in Seattle too. So it was as pure West Coast Pac-12 basketball as you could get, and they used to have a big rivalry when they were in the Pac-12 because they were, besides UCLA, they were the class of the Pac-12. So that was my favorite game of the tournament. But hopefully, there's a lot more good basketball to watch besides Tennessee and Kentucky this weekend.
That Florida UConn game was way better than what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it was. It was good.
UConn went down like a team defending back-to-back national championships.
Yeah,
They
not an
went
easy
down.
out, and defending champs shouldn't be an easy out.
They had also won 13 straight tournament games.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And
And did you did
now they've covered in 14 straight tournament games under Dan Hurley. So
and did you see him after the game? I mean, this could easily be a hater and loser of the week, but did you see him after the game saying they effed us, they effed us, I hope they don't F you? And apparently, I don't know if it was an SID or somebody with the university apparently went to whoever posted that and something else and like threatened them and said, take this down now or I'll ruin your life, basically, is what they said. I don't know how accurate that's the news going around, and it wasn't from a Richard G. West account, but um, that's pretty on par for Dan Hurley and UConn. I mean, I mean, even say their women's program, they're some of the most unlikable people in sports. I mean, they're great at what they do, but they're
See,
not likable at all.
I'm in the minority. I like Dan Hurley, and
He's a great coach. He is.
I'll put it this way: like, obviously, he's probably top. Hell, he might be the best coach in college basketball. He's at least top three or top five. But what I like about him most is, in another podcast I listened to, kind of touched on this. Um, he's not going to give you the cookie cutter bullshit cliche answers. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and especially in a day and age where people are kind of afraid to speak their mind, you never have to worry about that with Dan Hurley.
No.
Like he's got a ton of energy. He's got a lot of emotion. And he cares, and I guarantee everybody that's played for him at UConn absolutely loves him because he'd probably take a bullet for his players. No, I think college basketball and college sports in general would be better if we had more guys like him. Now you can not like him. Like it's fun to hate him and hate UConn, but we need more guys that can play the villain and embrace being the villain.
He's
You know?
definitely the hill.
Right? Yeah,
He's
and
definitely the hill.
he's damn good at it.
Mhm.
And my second point is, if he win back to back national championships, I don't think anybody can tell you how to act. And then you got the boomers like, oh, do it with class. Like, oh, piss off. We need some more personalities from coaches. It's fun.
I don't disagree with that. I just don't. I'm not a fan. I mean, I'm a fan
I'm
of
not
him
saying I
as a
like him.
basketball coach. I just wish he would.
I'm not saying I like him. I'm saying that college basketball
Uh,
is better because of him.
he's in the, and I'm Spurrier didn't do this, but he's like a Spurrier, a Gino Auriemma, or a I'm trying to think of who else. Well, you know what I'm getting at. Like there's always that hill, that villain out there, and he's leaned into it. I mean, it's what he does, but that's probably just how he is. That's how the Hurleys are, I believe. So, but great basketball coach, obviously.
Well, he's got little brother syndrome too.
True.
You know,
Yeah, when I was growing up, Danny was the big name over there at Duke, Dan Hurley
I mean Bobby.
or Bobby Hurley, sorry. So, well, that's all I got, Harbin. Any final thoughts before we leave the listeners?
Survive in advance. Surviving. It don't have to be pretty, and it don't have to be ugly either. I don't give a shit what it looks like. Just win the damn game.
Just
J-
JWTD TDG it.
yep.
Hashtag it. Hashtag that. Let's get that hashtag going. JWTDG. Yeah, big weekend for Tennessee. Um, just prepare yourselves. Just get ready because it's big night Friday night. Like I mentioned, I might be at the Saturday Tennessee South Carolina baseball game. That's up in the air. But if I am, I will post that on our social media so you can see where we're at and what we're doing. But definitely not going Friday because Tennessee basketball will be playing. So there's that. But wherever you're watching, go Vols. We'll be cheering along right there with you. Make sure to tag us in any celebration post if it happens. If we do make the Final Four, you can bet your bottom dollar that we'll have a very special episode of this show on Sunday night. I wonder, I mean, we don't know what time that game would even be on Sunday. It could be late afternoon or it could be noon. Remember
I don't
last year
care.
it was
I don't
fairly
care.
early.
I don't care what time we play. I don't care if we have the night game. If we win, it's happening.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. I was just, last year we played the late game against Creighton, and then turned around 2 days later and played at noon. I think it was right after it was on Easter Sunday, and it was like 1 o'clock or something like that. It was one of the first games of the day, because there's only two. So there's when you get to the Elite Eight, there's only two games on Sunday. There's two on Saturday, two Sunday. So Well, appreciate everybody listening. Thank you to Andrew's Physical Therapy once again, proud partners of the show. Be sure to check them out. Check out our YouTube channel. You can go on the search bar on YouTube, type in Section YY8 Podcast. All of our old episodes will come up. Harb, I was on there the other day, and remember our Ohio State episode right after we lost in the playoffs? It's up to like 4,400 views now. I still get comments from Ohio State fans. I just got some the other day. There's still Ohio State fans getting on there and seeing it and commenting on it. I'm like, guys, that was 3 or 4 months ago. Like, I don't care anymore. I just don't. Like, it's over with.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that's still popping up on the algorithm for Ohio State. So, but be sure to check out our YouTube channel on Section YY8 Podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff. If you're watching, be sure to check us out on audio, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast, and
What?
wherever else you might listen to us. If you're listening to us traveling or driving around for work, we appreciate it. Many were asking why we didn't record Sunday night, and I just said we were tired. I really threw you under the bus. I said Harb was wore out, but so was I. I can't deny it. I was tired Sunday night.
Yeah, I was about to say you didn't really fight me on it. I,
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I was watching the Lady Vols, and I kind of forgot.
I got back from Cherokee at like 8 o'clock, and I was like, yeah, we can do this another night. We don't play again till Friday.
So, but we appreciate everybody listening. If Tennessee win or lose, we'll be back Sunday night to wrap up the season, basketball season, that is. And we'll talk about the Vols basketball. Hopefully, we're on here talking about us going to San Antonio to the Alamo Dome. But if not, we'll be back here to break it down and talk Tennessee baseball. Lady Vol softball, Harbin, real quick. Carlin Pickens 78.2 miles an hour on the radar gun. Tennessee now holds the distinction of the fastest softball pitch, I think, ever with Carlin Pickens, if I read that correctly, and at least the fastest pitch in college baseball history with Ben Joyce at 105 miles an hour a couple years ago. Incredible.
Speed kills.
Speed. They said it would your reaction time on a 78.2 mile an hour pitch from Carlin Pickens is 0.31 seconds.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
I don't know if I could swing that fast.
No, I couldn't. She would make
It'd
me.
be incredible to. I'd like to stand in there and see one come. Well, I probably wouldn't be able to see it. To see what that's like. I've been in the batter's box when a 90 plus mile an hour fastball comes by. I guess that's kind of what that's like, but I've never been in there with a 100+ mile an hour fastball coming at you. So,
I
anyway,
was always like in softball when a pitcher's throwing gas and they put the baseball equivalent. So like 78 is probably the equivalent of like 105.
I think it's got to be close if it's not. They do that in the Little League World Series too. When those kids throw, they're like MLB equivalent to what they would be throwing.
Which I don't know how they.
I don't know how they do that, but anyways, thank you guys for listening. Go Vols, JWTDG. We'll see you guys next time, hopefully with an Elite Eight trophy and heading to San Antonio. But for Harbin, I'm Negative Nice, and we'll see you guys next time on the Section YY8 podcast.